What's happening, family? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? How is everybody doing on this Friday? Good to see y'all. Hope y'all had a great week. It's been pretty good for me. I cannot lie. It's been a pretty good week. Um, not to belabor this. Listen. What's up, Dre? Good to see you, man. Thank you for checking in. Maria, thank you for being here. For everybody else that's checking in, thank y'all for being here. Um, so today, I kind of wanted to be able to share a bit of myself with you, to share a bit of my story. Now, I have not told this story in about 10 years, because I just got to a point where I got tired of telling it. I used to tell it quite often, just to help people, understand, who I was, and to understand that I can relate to your struggle. But then the story became kind of a crutch for me. So um, I didn't tell it. I didn't tell it as much. Um, but I want to be able to share this story with you guys, to kind of give y'all an idea of where I came from. And that's why I titled this show, and I might not get through all of it today, but that's why I titled this show, um, fighting my way back home. Let me ask this question. As you all are listening to this, have you ever have you ever felt like God gave up on you, or you felt like God had forgotten about you, or God had removed his hand from you? Have you ever felt like, you know, God just did not um, love you anymore? You didn't have that sense of love anymore from God. You didn't think that God was any longer with you. And so, you had this sense that there was this sense of loneliness. There was this sense of despair. And you feel like you're in kind of one of those positions where, nobody can help you really, what I'm saying, but God. And the one person that you think can help you, he's really he really has not shown up, right? That that was my thinking. So let me just take you on this journey. um, all of you are familiar with September 11th, 9/11. All of you are familiar. I think y'all might have been in like elementary school or something, right? I was the old guy. So September 11th happens. I'm in the Army. I'm stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia, in Columbus, Georgia. And Fort Benning was about 60 miles, about an hour away from where I grew up. So for all intents and purposes, up to the point of 9/11, everything was good. I didn't really have any issues or any problems, if you will. Um, and so 9/11 happens. I'm in the Army. Um, Things get crazy in the world, and then we know what pursues from that. So 9/11 happens. Then Operation Noble Eagle happens. That's where they sent my unit and some other units. They first sent us to DC to protect the Pentagon, because if you remember, the towers got hit, and then the Pentagon got hit. And so there's this big hole in the side of the Pentagon. So work has still got to go on inside the Pentagon. So they need people to guard the Pentagon, make sure people have proper access. So you know I go back, and I say I go back because before I got to Fort Benning, I just left DC. I was up there stationed, two men unknown soldiers, all of that. So I was stationed there, got transferred to Fort Benning, because my plan was I'm going to Fort Benning, and Fort Benning is going to be my last stop on this Army ride. I was getting out, I was going to find something else to do, because again, I had a young family. I'm 25 years old at the time. I've got a wife who's in her early to mid 20s. I've got a 3-year-old daughter, and the Army was, not really fitting into my life plan at that moment. And so I was going to my plan was to get out of the Army at Fort Benning. I was close to home. I could go and I could build a new life there. But a different set of circumstances would happen. Like I said, 9/11 happens. We're doing Operation Noble Eagle. We're at the Pentagon, guarding the Pentagon. The president at the time, George W. Bush, puts out this order that's called a stop loss, where military members cannot move duty stations, nor can they exit the military. So September 11th happens. That's 2001. He and that happens. And so all of this goes on. Um, I was supposed to get out of the Army February of 2003. Of course, now I'm on a stop loss, so I cannot get out of the military. During this time, the United States decides to go to war with Iraq. My unit has orders to go to Iraq in April of 2003. Remember, I was supposed to get out in February of 2003. We get these orders where we have to go to Iraq April of 2003. April 2003, I find myself in Iraq. I'm in a strange land. I'm in a strange place, strange customs. For all intents and purposes, strange people. But what I have come to realize now that I did not recognize then was this strange land that I found myself in was a physical manifestation of how I felt spiritually. I was in a strange place. I wasn't really sure of myself anymore, and I walked around with, with all the ego, with all the arrogance, with all the macho that comes with being in the army. And that was outward, but spiritually, carnally, I was that guy. Spiritually, I was lost. And I had been a member of the body of Christ for years. But I was lost. What I would come to realize was that, me being in Iraq physically would be the physical manifestation of how I felt spiritually, lost in a strange place, in a desert place, not really knowing who I could trust, who I could depend on, enemy around me, people shooting for me, people, wanting me dead. And so that's where I found myself spiritually. And again, Iraq was the physical manifestation of that. And so I'm in this strange land. I've had to leave, my wife and my daughter, and I'm just in this place. Now, before I left for Iraq, again, I didn't, I didn't show any signs of me not, being who I am. I was, fun guy, loving guy. And so, if you've ever seen my wife is shorter than I am. And I'm saying that because it's important to the story. Before I left, my wife was um, that girl who is, she's independent. She could do it for herself. She's the type of girl that I would leave work. I would leave home to go to work, come back and the house is totally rearranged. She's moved all the furniture by herself, didn't need any help, right? I was used to that. But she's also that girl that would stroke my ego, where she would say, "Hey, can you come and grab this jar for me that was maybe on a high shelf, or can you get this pan for me?" She'd get a jar and she'd come over. Now, she could easily get a towel and take the top off, but she'd say, "Can you open this for me?" And so she did a lot of things to stroke my ego, to make me feel. And not because she felt that I necessarily needed that, but she wanted to know that she appreciated who I was in her life. And so she was that, come open this for me, can you get this? And of course, if you're married and you're listening to me and you're a man, you know how we do. They say, come get this for me, and we act like we don't really want that, so we'll but really, that does stroke our ego to hear our significant other calling us to help them, because it makes us feel like we're needed, like, we're somebody that they really need us. And so, of course, she didn't do it because, I was going through anything, but she just wanted me to feel, needed, because, that's what women do for for their men, right? So I go to Iraq. I'm over there. And while I'm in Iraq, go through all of that. I'm not going to tell you the whole stuff that we had to deal with over there. I just don't relive that part too much anymore. Um, but one of the things that was significant for me while I was there was, when you first get into Iraq, when we first got into Iraq, the thing that they said to us was, take one of your dog tags, because they gave us two. Take one of your dog tags and tie it in the laces of your boots. Now, the reason that they would have you put the dog tag on the laces of your boots is in the case that you stepped on a mine, or you got blown up or something, and your legs got separated from the rest of your body. They would have something that would be able to identify who you were, and so they would do a DNA, and they would be able to do a DNA match for all the rest of the parts of your body. That was the reason. I said, I'm not doing that, because I plan to come back from this place whole. And I want y'all to hear what I'm saying to you. I'm in this desert place. And while I'm in there, Now, I'm a sergeant in the Army. I've got soldiers that I've got to look out for. And before we left for Iraq, I looked each of their parents and loved ones in the eyes and told them, I will bring your son and daughter back home whole. I will bring them back to you as they are leaving you. That was my promise to their family members. So, I'm in this place, put your dog tag down. So I talk to God and I tell God, I say, God, if you will help me to make it back home safely in one piece, I'll live the rest of my life for you. Right? So fast forward. Stop loss is lifted. I can now get out of the Army. So they send me back early. I get back in September, and I've got 30 days to get out of the Army. The rest of my unit is still in Iraq, but I've got 30 days to get out. So I get out of the Army October 31st, 2003. 30 days coming from Iraq, and I've got to get out of the Army. Did not have time to look for a job, didn't have time to make sure my family was situated. Just, hey, you're supposed to be out, you got to get out. I still got a wife, I've still got a daughter. And so I'm out of the Army now, and I don't have a job. So now I've got to go and apply for unemployment. And in that time, let me tell you, times got tough. Financially, times got tough. I was no longer the hero of my house. This is me talking. That's how I felt. I was no longer the hero of my house. I couldn't provide for my wife and for my daughter. And in the time that I've been gone, my wife and my daughter have had to figure out how to navigate life without me. So now, before I leave, it's, hey, honey, can you come and get this for me? Hey, honey, can you open this for me? Hey, honey, can you grab this for me? Now, when I get back, that's not the question anymore. It's now me watching my wife go into the laundry room, get a step ladder, climb up to get the stuff that she needs. I'm now seeing her grab a towel off of a dish towel and open up the jar. So now there's this sense of me not feeling needed. There's a sense of nobody needs me as much. I'm no longer the hero of my family. And so there was in this time I go back and I take the family to visit my parents, who again are an hour away from where we're living. And when I get there, my father's there, my mother's there, my brothers are way off at college, my wife and my daughter. And they're all in the living room. And I go from the living room to the bedroom that I had at my parents' house, from when I was little. And I'm sitting on the bed, and I can hear them in the front room, and they're laughing and having a good time. And I felt like I had been forgotten. I felt like nobody needed me. I felt like nobody cared anymore. Like if I'm going to be honest, I felt like I was in the way. And so it's after this that now I'm feeling that nobody cares about me. Nobody, wants me anymore. And so I start going through some destructive behaviors. I don't care to recount, what they were, but I went through some destructive behaviors. And in those destructive behaviors, I was really crying out for somebody to help me. I was crying out for somebody to tell me that in the midst of my pain, that they still cared about me, that they still loved me. And so in that moment, in that moment, I'm just going. I deserted my family. Now I was in the house, but I was not a part of the house. I you know, I'm just sitting there. There's no interaction. There's no affection. There's nothing. I could have been easily just a piece of the furniture. And when I look back on it now, and this went on for, let me tell you, this went on for 3.5, 4 years. I'm 25 at this time. I didn't really get out of this until at least 4 years later. And I'm just doing these destructive behaviors. And if I can be honest, I'm sharing this with y'all, and I hope y'all are hearing me, and I hope you won't judge me in this moment. But I did that because I wanted to push my family away. I wanted them to leave because I could not be for them what I was before I left. I wanted them because I wanted them to continue to be happy, and I wanted them to continue to be smiling, and I didn't want them to look at the sadness in my face. And so I did everything I could to make them say, I quit, we're leaving, we're out of here. I tried to do everything I could. And the reason that I did that is because, again, I felt that nobody cared about me. And in that moment, all I ever really wanted was somebody to tell me that they still loved me. So, I deserted my family. And not only did I desert my family, but then I deserted my faith. Now, remember, in the desert, I'm saying, God, if you will help me get through this, if you will bring me back alive, I'll live my life serving you. And God lived up to his end of the bargain in that he brought me back safely. No limbs missing. I came back alive. God kept his end of the bargain, but I defaulted on mine. So I forgot about God. I was angry with God. I didn't want anything to do with God. But let me show you something. By habit, listen to me. It was not by faith. It had nothing to do with faith. Yeah, man. Authenticity, man. Listen, I'm being vulnerable and authentic in this moment. It was not by faith. It was by habit that I went to church every Sunday. Now I've abandoned my family. I've given up on God. But every Sunday, I'm in the church. I'm present in the building. I'm present in the services. My body was there, but I was not. And just to show you how we divorce what true worship is in my fellowship, we make people think that they have to do these 5 things, and you check that list off and you still have worship. But that's not true. Because in those years, I was not in fellowship with God at all. And if I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't want to have anything to do with God. Because, yeah, you brought me back whole, but my family is tore up. Nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me. And you want me to believe that you love me, God? Ain't no way. There's no way. Why would you bring me back to something where people are overlooking me, where the people don't even care about me anymore? So I come back and I like I'm telling you, I'm in the house with my family, but I've abandoned them. It's not like I'm not even there. I'm going to the church house, but there's no connection. Let me see this question real quick. So with a person feeling this way when it comes to God, what would your advice be to them? How do they get back to the point of having faith in God? I'm coming to that. So just ride with me for a minute, because I need you to understand where I was. So I deserted God, deserted my family, and that's a cry for pain. I mean, it's a cry for help. It's hurt. It's pain that's coming out. And like I said, I'm doing these destructive behaviors, and it's all for the point of driving people away from me, because in that moment, I did not feel like I deserved to be loved, because I didn't even love myself. It got so bad that really I was trying to just send my family away, because I did not want them to be around me. And for the next 3.5 years, I spent my life in a dark, desolate, lonely place. I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about life. I didn't care about people. I didn't care about myself. It was what listen, it got so bad. Thank you, Amber, for being honest about that. It got so bad that I would go to bed at night. I would close my eyes, and it would be my prayer. Now, this is a person that doesn't even have a connection to God, but yet I'm praying. And my prayer is, don't let me see the sun come up tomorrow. Now, I was too much of a coward to kill myself. Now, I wasn't going to do that. But I would pray at night. Don't let me see the sun come up. And it was almost like every time that I woke up, it was a disappointment to me, because now I've got to go through the rest of this 24 hours feeling this way. And I want you to imagine this now, because I've got a young wife and I've got a young daughter, and they're seeing me go through this. Can you imagine the pain and agony of watching a person that you knew once, who was strong, who was, charismatic, who was outgoing, who was, for all intents and purposes, was the life of the party. And now that person is just a shell of themselves, and you're just watching them slowly degrade, and there is nothing you can do. You're helpless. There's nothing you can do to help them out of this place. There's no words that you can say. The only person that she could talk to in that moment was my mother and God. Now here it is, my mother, who and both my parents, honestly, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I think this broke my father's heart more than it broke my mother. I'm trying not to get emotional, y'all. I'm really trying. I thought I was gonna make it through this, man. think it broke my father's heart more than it broke my mother's, because he's watching his oldest son crumble under this pressure and this strain. And and he I haven't told this story in 10 years. And the emotions are still just as raw as they were when I was going through it. But um, he's having to watch his oldest son, and he can't do anything. This has been my Superman all my life, and now I'm the one person that Superman can't save. Can you imagine how that made him feel? And so, my parents and my wife are having to watch me go through this. And mind you, my wife still hasn't raised our daughter. And I'm trying my best to put on a good face for her. But some days it just did not work. I mean, there were days I realized, I just want y'all to, this, I'm this is me fighting to get back home, and not just fighting to get back to my spiritual home. I needed to fight back to get to my physical home, my biological home, but I needed to get back to the home of myself. I needed to get back to Antoine. So I was in a fight. I was in a fight for my life. I was in a fight for my survival. And like I'm telling you, I would go to church, and there would be some Sundays that I would be in church, man, and through the whole service, I would just straight bawl, right? Because I'm fighting. I'm fighting to get back home, right? I'm fighting to get back to some sense of normalcy. Because yeah, yes, I came back in one piece physically, but I was destroyed spiritually. I was destroyed emotionally. I was destroyed spiritually. I was torn up. And so, I'm going through this, and I just was not having a good time. Again, I was in this place of desolation. Iraq became a physical manifestation of where I was spiritually. And I'm in this dark, desolate, lonely place, and nobody can help me. Nobody can pull me out of this thing. Nobody on earth. Let me say it like that. I thank God to this day for a praying wife and a praying mother. Because in the times when I couldn't talk to God, in the times when I did not care to talk to God, they talked to God for me. And I mean, all night, all day, my mother wore out the floor in her house because she would pace back and forth, sometimes all night long. And my mother was still working at the time. And she could not sleep at night because she was concerned about her son. And I want you to understand how my story affected other people's stories, other people's lives, other people's situations, but yet I didn't, because of where I was, it didn't resonate, it didn't calculate, it didn't really, if I'm going to be honest, it didn't matter, because I wasn't thinking about nobody at that moment. I wasn't even thinking about me. If I'm going to be honest, I wasn't thinking about anybody or anything. I just, I just wanted the pain to stop. And like I said, I would go into destructive behaviors. And let me tell you, people scoff at alcoholics and drug addicts. Now, I ain't never been a drug dude. I smoked a little weed here and there, but that heavy stuff, I'm scared of needles, so I ain't shooting nothing up. I don't like nothing in my nose, so I ain't snorting no cocaine. I ain't doing none of that, right? But alcohol, I'm grateful to God right now that my liver has not given up on me, because I would drink heavily. And the reason that I drank was because I wanted to go to a temporary place where I could not feel the pain. That's all I wanted. I wanted to get away from the pain. And I didn't want to go to a doctor because I didn't want anybody. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's legal now. I wish it was legal back then, right? Weed is legal now, right? Um, I wanted to go to a place where nobody would judge me, where nobody would look at me crazy. I didn't, and I didn't want to go to a doctor because I didn't want to be called crazy. I didn't want to be called, psychotic or whatever, you know. Again, that was an ego thing. Here I am in this dark, lonely place, and I got the audacity to have an ego, right? And I was just, I was just in a bad place, man. I just was. I could not figure out how to get out of this funk. This lasted from 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, till about 2007. By this time, let me just be honest with you. Now, that's 4 long years of dealing with a person who does not care about themselves, who does not love themselves, who does not care about anything or anyone. But in this time, my house is crumbling spiritually. There's no connection. We are literally living like roommates. And I didn't tell you that in between that time we moved from Columbus to Savannah, Georgia. So I'm taking, I don't know if y'all heard the last show, but I talked about how you can take toxicity from one environment and you can take that toxicity into a sterile environment and contaminate it if you don't clean up the toxicity back in that place. So what did I do? I did not get clean from this toxicity. I did not get clean from this hurt. I did not get clean from this pain. And what did I do? I just took that same baggage. I took that same hurt. Took that same stuff. I took all of that with me to the new place, a place that you would think would bring us new beginnings. And the question that my wife had to ask herself is, am I going with him? And where I was in that point in my life, a part of me wanted her to come, and a part of me did not. I got a child. I've got my only baby girl. And I really thought in that moment, in this time of my life, I hope y'all, please, I hope you don't judge me. I'm just trying to share my story with you because I'm trying to help people see this thing, and I'm not going to get through all of it, but there is a good side to this. But I'm just laying this foundation to you. I felt that their lives would be better if I were not in it, and honestly, at that point, it didn't matter to me how I wasn't in it, whether I was not physically there, or whether we were not together, whether God answered that prayer and you know ended it all for me or whatever. It didn't matter to me at that point because again, in my phase, in my hurt, I've got to admit a lot of people who felt like me, they would not say that they were not selfish, but I'm telling you, for me, I was selfish in that moment because I didn't care about anybody. I didn't care about anything. I didn't even care about me. And I just wanted my pain to stop. I didn't even care about their pain. I didn't care about their hurt. And so, we moved. And so we go to Savannah. And at that point, we're living like, roommates. We're passing by each other, not even, not speaking, not saying things. Now, I've got a daughter that's growing up in this, and she's seeing this. And while she did not totally know what was happening, she knew something was not right. And that's why I tell people now, don't think that your kids don't know. Don't think that you're hiding anything from your kids. They may not be at the age where they can totally comprehend what's happening, but they see, they know, they are aware that something is not right. And for a lot of them, even they are scared in that moment because they don't know, you know, how you're going to pop off. They don't know how, what you're going to say. They don't know if you're going to have an angry outburst. They don't know what you're going to do. They're having to tiptoe because, man, he might blow up again. And so, I'm in this place, and um, my family's having to go through this, having to deal with this. Remember, I told you that, my wife and my mother, they're talking to each other. And at the time that they're talking to each other, they're talking to God, and they're talking to God about me. And I ain't talking to nobody because as far as I was concerned, I'm just being honest. Please don't judge me. As far as I'm concerned, God was dead to me because God didn't look out for me. God didn't care about me. I was angry with God. So my family was a wreck. So we moved from Columbus, we moved to Savannah, and then in 2007, we moved to Albany, Georgia, back to my hometown. And let me tell you, folks, when I moved back home to my hometown, the road to recovery, the road to home begins. Just hearing myself say that now, I'm looking at just how God works. I'm in Iraq, and I'm in a desolate place. I'm in a desert place. I'm in a place where I don't know anybody. I'm in a place where I don't trust anybody. I'm in a place where I'm surrounded by enemy. I'm in a strange land, which was a physical manifestation of where I was spiritually. And then he carves out my path to take me back to my hometown. And he takes me back to my hometown to help bring me back home. I don't know about y'all, but that did something for me. Now that I look back on it, all of these years, he took me back home so that that place would be a physical manifestation of where he was going to lead me spiritually. And I'll tell you about that next week. What transpired, what happened, what helped me to get back to where I am. But I wanted to just give you a part of my story today. I'm sorry, I did not mean to get emotional. I didn't even know that it's still as emotional for me today as it was back then. Like I said, I hadn't told this story in over 10 years. So I wanted to be able to share just a little bit of this with you all. I am thinking about penning it in a book and writing the story. Um, but thank y'all for joining. I'm up against the clock, man. Thank y'all for joining me. Any questions? Anybody got anything that they want to say? About this. Because I really do thank y'all, because it's an emotional, it was an emotional time for me. It was an emotional struggle for me. But for about 3.5 years, 4 years, I left. I had deserted, my faith. Like I said, to me, at that point in my life, God to me was dead. I didn't care about God. And when you look at the story of the prodigal son, him, asking his father for his part of the inheritance, he's saying something to his dad. And yeah, I'm listening. Carlos, ask the question, man. I'm listening. Yes, sir. What's the question? I think I got time for a few questions. I think he's probably typing this question as while he's typing it. Um, like I said, at that point, God was, pretty much dead to me. I had given up on him, because he to me, he had not, filled his obligation to me. He didn't care about me. He wasn't there to support me. He had turned his back on me, and so, I didn't have nothing for him, and it was a trying time. Like I said, it was a dark place, and I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Um, but thank y'all. Next week, I'll tell you how I started my recovery, how I got back to being into this place where I am now. Right, now at this moment. Um, I'm not that guy. I'm not even now where I am now in my life. I'm not even the guy I was before I left to go to Iraq. So it took a lot of recovery and a lot of a lot of introspection, a lot of self reflection. Carlos, I'm waiting on your question, man. I thought you had a question. If not, man, I'm up against the clock, and I got to get up out of here. But I appreciate y'all. I hope and some. Okay, here we go. It says, let me get back. Um, you've been in actual combat. How do you feel when you hear so many believers talking talking tough? It depends on what you mean by talking tough, man. Um, you know, depends on what you mean by talking. If you're talking about talking tough as it relates to the spiritual war, when I hear people talking tough about their their spiritual battle, they talk tough. Those are people to me that probably have never really had a real struggle. Because let me tell you this: I was in combat, like literal combat. Bullets flying, missiles flying, people shooting, and all of that. But the months that I spent in Iraq were far safer and easier for me than the spiritual battle that I had to fight. So my whole experience in Iraq was a physical manifestation of what was happening spiritually. I was in physical, literal combat, but I was also in. I was getting ready to go into a spiritual battle. And I made it out of the physical combat, but that spiritual battle almost killed me. That spiritual battle almost took me out. That spiritual battle really almost put me. If it wasn't going to put me in a grave, it was going to put me in a mental institution. And so, um, you know, I hear people and they talk, and I just don't think a lot of people have been through a serious um, spiritual battle. They talk tough because it's easy to talk tough when that ain't your situation. You know what I mean? When I look at David and Goliath, it was easy for Israel to talk tough while David was fighting Goliath. But before David showed up, they were scared. They were hiding. Um, so for me, yeah, man. That's the absolute truth on my end. Um, um, for me, like I said, I survived the physical battle. I survived Iraq. I came back whole physically. I was tore up mentally. I was tore up spiritually. I was tore up emotionally. And so, you know, I called victory in the physical battle, but spiritually, I was behind. I was that spiritual battle really, honestly, almost took me out. It almost put me in my grave. Um, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. That's why I understand this spiritual battle thing. And so I'm telling you, and that's my story, man. And I'll tell you, like I said, next week, I'll tell people um, how I um, how I you know found my way back home, because it was a fight. It was not easy. And let me tell you this, and then I'm gonna close this out. In that time that I was fighting to get back home, I had to fight Satan on one hand, and I fought with God on the other. So now, imagine, here I am, this mortal dude, and I'm taking on two spiritual beings. And sometimes I tried to take them on at the same time. And I'll tell y'all how that turned out, man. I really no appreciate you, man. Love you too, man. Appreciate that. But I'll share next week. How I found my way, how I got back home, how I really got to a place where I was able to have some normalcy again. Man, listen, I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. I appreciate y'all for being here. Join me next week. I'll tell y'all how I finally got back to the house, how I finally found myself back in a place where I was able to recover. And I'm just going to tell you, it's 2020. My journey started in 2017. My journey back home, not 2017, my journey back home started in 2007. And I've got to tell you, um, I fight every day now to stay at home. I fight every day now to make sure that I don't leave again. That's why a lot of times I go as hard as I do. And, a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people think it's this anger that I have, or no, because I know what it meant to be in a strange land, and what it meant to be far away. And so now, um, the fight that it took for me to get back home, I can't let anybody knock me off my course. And so I appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all for hanging in there with me. Thank y'all for hearing my story. I hope it helped you in some small way. And I'm looking forward to being with y'all next week. God bless y'all.